video we're going to talk about proportion. It's really important that when you're doing a drawing that you make sure that the elements of the drawing are the correct size in relationship to each other. So if you have a huge eye and a tiny nose, it's not going to look real. So there are different techniques to make sure you get the proportions of a drawing correct. A very simple one is where you measure one object within the drawing or one element of the drawing against another. So for instance, the size of that eye basically fits from the bottom of the nose to where the eye starts. And if I take that measurement somewhere else, bottom of the ear to the top of the shading in the eye, if I look at the size of the mouth, it's about the same size as the mouth. So I've got one measurement that will help me get these other measurements correct. If you don't want to do it like that, you could use a pencil. Now this is what lots of artists do, and you see them doing all this when they're drawing. Well, that's actually what they're doing. They're measuring the proportion of an element of the drawing. So if I use this pencil, so I go from that corner of the eye to this corner of the eye, I can move it to the nose. I can see that's the same. I can move it to the lips. Oh, now from the side of the paper, it comes to just where that lip, bottom lip finishes. If I twist it to the ear, it comes to, from the bottom of the ear, comes to level with the eye. So I'm taking this measurement with my pencil and I am using it once, it fits there, twice, two and a half. So I'm using it to measure other elements of my drawing, but still useful tool. You could use a ruler and say, right, okay, that eye's 7 centimetres, bottom of the nose, just a little bit less, but more or less that sort of measurement. So you could use your ruler. Another way of doing it, which you'll be familiar with, I would imagine, is drawing a grid square. So here's another image, and I've drawn a grid square over it to help break down the image, and then when I copy this grid square onto my drawing paper, I can just check what's in each one of the squares. I've numbered them down the side and numbered them across the bottom, and I can just check what's in each of those squares and copy it on my sheet of paper. These squares I've used are 3 centimetres by 3 centimetres. But so I would just copy that same square across onto my drawing paper. But if I wanted a bigger picture, I would increase the size of these squares. So I might do 4 by 4 or 5 by 5. And if I was doing something on a wall as a mural, I would do it probably 1 foot by 1 foot, and then it'd be huge, 18 feet in fact. So you could use that to scale up, but you can also use it to scale down. So here's one I've done that's a little bit smaller. So the grid square here, which I've started, is 2 centimetres. So I've just knocked 1 centimetre off each square. And then you can see what I'm doing. I'm looking, hopefully, I'm looking in each square to see where the information is. So first square, number 3 down. I'm looking here and I can see the head starts not halfway but half of halfway. So I might just separate that square into another 4, and then I know it's half of halfway. So I start there, a little above, come down all the way down to there at a slight angle, and then it curves a bit. So curves a bit and joins onto there, which is halfway. So I've got that line, and when I'm sure of my line, then I can make it a little bit heavier, but not until I'm sure of it. With this drawing, it's great because you can see different weights of line. You can see where the drawing's got darker here to bring the nose forward, and where the lines are lighter, they recede. So where the nose here gets a little bit darker, it pulls it forward. Dark lines come out and softer lines, less heavy lines recede. So we've got a good variety of line here in this drawing. We've got good dark lines, and then we've got some really soft sketchy lines. Okay, so I can continue this drawing looking at the different weight of line as well. Here we go. Now the two things that are wrong with using a grid square, not wrong but difficult, are once you've done your drawing you've got all these lines over it, so you've got to get rid of them. So either a putty rubber, which is the rubber that looks a bit like blue tack, which is paper cleaner, or these nice hard rubbers that we have, these quite rigid ones, but you get a little bit rid of a bit of your drawing when you're doing that. So the other thing that's difficult when you're using a grid square is that it does stilt your movement of your arm a bit and make it a bit stiff, because you're not getting that free flowing drawing, you are copying very carefully. So it's great for some things, but there are problems with it too. So some artists prefer, instead of doing that, to just draw their square or rectangle over their image that they're copying, and then make a star shape using the middle. So if you go from corner to corner and then as a box, that's really good because it breaks it into your individual bits, but there's less fuss of things to get rid of. Or you could just do a basic cross over the drawing. And that just gives you 4 boxes, but it does help break down the drawing into sections for you. Or you could fold your drawing if you didn't want to draw onto your actual photograph. So, but that gives you your 4 boxes just to check what bit's in what box, and you draw your cross on your sketching paper. Okay, so you're going to be doing some lovely drawings from artist's work. So if you want to use a grid square, that's fine. When I started drawing, I used a grid square maybe 2 or 3 times, and then my brain understood how to look at the object and not have to use a grid square. So I sort of trained my eye to look at something and be able to break it up into the grid, but without using a grid, and hopefully you'll do that too. So as soon as you can stop using a grid, please do. They're handy for some things, but they can get a bit in the way. But it is important to make sure that that you focus on what is an object within the drawing, and is it bigger than something else? Is it the same size as something else? So use the pencil trick. Use the pencil for measuring distance between one thing and another, and the size in relationship of one element of the drawing to another element of the drawing, and that will help you with your proportion. So looking forward to seeing some of your gorgeous drawings.